You're in the garage, breath fogging a little in the cold, staring at a bike that looks like it's already gone into hibernation mode. But outside your driveway, two wheels are definitely not hibernating. This is Haunted Throttle Night Shift Tune, and while you tune up, tonight we're talking about three things. Why small bikes are absolutely exploding worldwide right now, how electric two-wheelers are sneaking into some surprising places, and how holiday toy runs are turning big miles into big help for kids. Plus a heads up on one ride in your backyard. Let's roll. The world is buying bikes like crazy. If you're in a place where it's cold, and the bike is parked more than it's rolling, it's easy to feel like motorcycling is shrinking. The numbers say the opposite. In the Philippines, the motorcycle market is on track to hit a record 1.79 million units sold in 2025. From January through October, they've already moved about 1.58 million bikes, roughly a 14% jump over last year, with October alone up nearly 20% year over year. That's not niche hobby. This is how people get to work, move freight, and live their lives. Slide over to India, and it's the same story with bigger numbers. Honda Motorcycle and Scooter India is reporting almost 600,000 units sold in November alone, around 25% growth over the same month last year. They've already crossed over 4 million units in this financial year. TVS Motor Company says it sold just over 500,000 units in November, up about 30% from a year earlier. Two-wheeler sales jumped hard, with motorcycles up more than a third, and electric models growing fast. Their export numbers are climbing too. In plain English, commuter bikes, scooters, and small EVs are flying out of showrooms. What does that mean for you, the rider wrenching in a US garage, or watching from somewhere colder? More small displacement tech gets R&D money. When companies sell millions of 125s, 150s, and commuter scooters, they can justify better brakes, ABS, traction control, and fuel injection tech that eventually trickles up into the fun stuff. Parts and tires tend to get cheaper and more available. High volume keeps suppliers alive. If you ride anything in that global commuter ecosystem, little Hondas, Yamahas, TVS, and all the clones, this kind of growth is what keeps your parts counter stocked. And it's proof the industry isn't going anywhere. Even if your local dealer is slow right now, out in Manila and Bangalore, people are still lining up to buy new bikes. So while you're staring at your bike wondering if you should install heated grips or just move somewhere warmer, remember, globally, we're not a dying tribe. We're in rush hour. Electric two-wheelers in unexpected places. The next story tonight isn't coming out of California or Berlin. It's Ethiopia. A few years ago, a guy named Yuma Sasaki started building Dode, an electric motorcycle startup in Addis Ababa. When he began, there were basically no charging stations, no policy framework, and no real supply chain for EVs. Fast forward to now, Ethiopia has passed its first startup law, giving young companies tax breaks and a clearer legal category. The government has started opening up telecoms and banking, making it easier to move money and run digital services. And Dode has raised serious funding, building battery swap stations and local assemblies so delivery riders and moto-taxi drivers can actually use electric two-wheelers in daily life. If you've ever looked at your city and thought, there's no way they'll ever build proper EV infrastructure here, just know that somewhere in Ethiopia, a courier on an electric bike is swapping a dead pack for a fresh one in the time it takes you to find your keys. At the same time, Vietnam is doing something that sounds weird on paper, but makes sense in context. A fresh draft decree from their environment ministry would temporarily exempt EV battery makers from strict collection and recycling quotas, including car and motorcycle manufacturers, because there just aren't many dead EV batteries yet. The original plan wanted a recycling rate right away. Regulators basically said, look, EV sales only ramped up recently. These packs last roughly 10 years. There is nothing to recycle yet, so forcing quotas now just creates fake compliance. Instead, they're letting automakers contribute money into the system while the first wave of EVs is still on the road. They're also talking about reusing old packs and stationary battery projects once they finally do start aging out. So between Ethiopia and Vietnam, you've got battery swap electric bikes serving riders in a place that, 10 years ago, barely had the infrastructure for it. Policymakers figuring out how to not crush EV adoption with rules that are a little too early. If you live somewhere that feels behind, this is your reminder. The next wave of bike tech might show up first in delivery fleets and ride-share scooters in places you never think about, then trickle into the hobby bikes we love. One quick safety note while we're talking about electrons. A new analysis points out that e-bike injuries have been rising a lot faster than e-bike sales, and throttle-style Class 2 e-bikes make up a big chunk of the market. That's not about shaming e-bikes, it's about this. If it has a throttle, and it does real-world speeds, it's a motorcycle problem. Visibility, protection, and rider training. Whether it's a 1000cc sport bike or a throttle e-bike that tops out at 20 or 28 miles an hour, The pavement absolutely does not care. Holiday toy runs, and how to plug in. Last piece tonight. The good side of bike culture, and a couple of events you might actually be close to. Down in South Mississippi, the Asgard Motorcycle Club just wrapped up their 41st annual Toy Run charity motorcycle ride. Riders roll from Kill to Bay St. Louis, packing trailers with thousands of toys and clothes. Hundreds of bikers turned out again this year. All of it goes to local groups that get those toys under trees. On the other side of the world, in Australia's Northern Rivers region, the North Coast Road Riders are gearing up for their annual Our Kids Motorcycle Toy Run, a colorful convoy from Ballina to Lismore. Riders dress up in Christmas gear, bring new unwrapped toys, and deliver them to kids at the regional hospital and nearby organizations that help kids with special needs. And if you're somewhere near northeastern Oklahoma, there's a long-running motorcycle toy run in Bartlesville. Riders gather, roll through town in formation, and finish at the Salvation Army with trailers full of donated toys. So if your bike's been sitting and you need a reason to fire it up, check your local event calendars for a toy run or charity ride. Make sure the bike is mechanically sound, brakes, lights, tires, all the boring stuff. Treat the ride like what it is, a rolling parade full of mixed skill levels and distracted drivers. Big following distances, no stunting, lots of visibility. You get a couple hours on the bike. A kid who might not have gotten anything under the tree gets a present. That's a pretty good trade. That's it for tonight's night shift. Global small bikes are booming, electric two-wheelers are showing up in places nobody expected, and the calendar is full of rides that turn gasoline and goodwill into something kids can unwrap. Until next time, keep the tank full, the chain clean, and the giving side of this culture alive. This has been Haunted Throttle Night Shift. Tune in while you tune up.